What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture, whatever's left of pop culture at this point.
Pop.
It's it's Pat Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, Tenet pushed back again. Are we ever going to watch movies in the theater again?
Might not this year. Might not happen now. Like,
It's not.
and I do feel bad for like theater owners in Europe that actually want to be open but don't have any Hollywood releases to entice the masses, because Hollywood releases do occupy the majority of the screens in the summer in Europe as well. So it's not looking good for the industry at this time. Sucks.
Yeah, definitely sucks. Tenet is a movie that we've been very excited for a long time. Even people that aren't huge Christopher Nolan fans, I hear talking about just wanting to see it, wanting to feel like things are getting back to normal, and they're not going to be for some time. So all I can say is wear a mask, and also subscribe to Nostalgia Pod if you're watching this on YouTube.com/NostalgiaPod or SoundCloud.com/NostalgiaPod. Give us a follow there as well. Share us with your friends and family, because we talk about music, TV, movies, and we're going to start with a lot of music today, Dave. And it's an interesting mix. We have some up and coming hip hop artists. We have some resurging female pop artists, pop country as well. So quite a lot to talk about. And we're going to start with someone that hasn't dropped music in 3 years, Joey Badass. Where did this come from?
Admon back, baby. I don't know. I think he just kind of teased relatively recently that new music, solo music from him was coming. Obviously, we had group efforts from him with the Beast Coast album last year, but I think there might have been a one-off like freestyle here or there, but no new solo releases since All American Badass back in 2017. It's been a long time. And he actually had some quotes about this relatively long wait, especially as far as active rapping goes. And he said he doesn't make fast food. Sometimes it takes more than 6 months to have something come to him, And in general, he seems to be pretty consistent in that attitude, which I respect. We got this little 3-pack. He says don't call it an EP. I mean, it's an EP, I guess, or a single. If this was on a vinyl, this could have been like a double disc,
right?
But like, yeah, it's an EP.
Yeah, for sure. And since All American Badass, which I know is an album you really like, an album we talked about in the pod when it came out, I think we both thought it showed a lot of promise and expansion of sound and trying some new things from Joey, which was really exciting. He was only 22 when he dropped that, so
only 25 now.
Yeah, he's 25 and kind of having this almost like resurgence or rebirth back into music is pretty cool. And I thought these 3 songs sounded really great, dude. Like, I was blown away with each one of them in different ways. Feels like he's really grown as an artist in terms of direction he's going in. I think he was really sharp on his verses. And he was taking some shots, man. Like that. What was it? Was it the first song he comes on and he's saying the mumble rap extermination?
This is godly interpretation.
He's coming at the young bucks here, saying they're not respecting the classic rap game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like hearing that from him. I like hearing that from anyone, really. It's interesting because with All American Badass, he had kind of moved beyond that really classicist boom bap production and style that he blew up on with 1999, and in the process had a lot of lyrical, conscious music, particularly about the moment following the Trump election. Songs like songs about police brutality and racial inequality, stuff like that. I think of songs like Land of the Free and Temptation. There's a bunch on there. But alongside that, you had Temptation and Devastated, of course, songs that do not sound like that boom bap stuff at all. And this, this isn't like real boom bap here on the light pack, but it's more to his roots in terms of just kind of being a really proficient technical rapper with something to get off his chest. So I think for any Joey fans, this is certainly at least a good sign and it makes you more excited about what's to come. I mean, he's paying homage to Bobby Brown in the video with the red on and stuff, and it's exciting, because I think Joey's been making music for 8 years, and he's only 25. Like, it really can't be understated that he's like a young OG. It's fucking cool. So I was really excited to see what we get next. I think these are 3 like really kind of classic Joey songs. So it's great to hear him back.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked No Explanation. I think Push comes in and just kind of continues his run of like excellent features. I guess minus the Pop Smoke one that was taken off confirmed now.
It would have been wild if Pusha continued the Drake beef. Like his immediately follow-up feature, more Drake shots. That would have been so funny.
Every feature he does now just has to have one Drake shot in it, no matter what. I would appreciate that. Yeah, and then I really liked him sampling Roy Ayers on Shine. I thought that was a really cool sample, and I thought that song just sounded like, I don't know, like old school gangster sitting in like a smoky cigar-filled bar type shit. It sounded really cool. But yeah, overall, I was really impressed. I hope we get some more music real soon. I mean, it's been a while, and I feel like he's coming back sharp. So have to imagine there's more in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, Joey also had another comment recently. It might have been the same time he talked about not making fast food, where he said he doesn't like albums that are over 14 tracks. And he approaches his own music making in that fashion. I'm like, my guy.
Yeah.
Gets it right here. Also, he had a tweet where he's like, I haven't dropped solo music for the entirety of Rainbow Boy's career, which was factually true.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
And he's not really hiding, I guess, in terms of his criticism, which I appreciate.
Not at all.
Say what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Love it.
Well, Dave, let's move on to some artists that maybe aren't as skilled, or I don't know. Yeah, so StaySolidRocky dropping his debut project, even Fallin. He really rose to fame through Instagram, dropping snippets of songs, things like that. Then dropped the Party Girl music video this past December. Got like over 2 million views, and then TikTok took it over as a dance craze, and it really blew up. So probably was always going to be something coming from this young man, only 19 years old. But boy, this is probably the best album I've listened to all year. Just fantastic. Something new and exciting on every track. No, this was fucking terrible, dude. Like one of the worst albums we're going to review this year, I think.
Yeah, his come up is interesting to me because, as you said, he's like actually a genuine TikTok success. He didn't pay to promote himself on TikTok in the early days and get lucky with that the way someone like Flo Milli did, which also nothing wrong with that, of course. And obviously now with TikTok, there's so much money involved in promoting yourself with the influencers on the platform that to have a genuine song because people like the song, like dancing to or whatever, has something that genuinely happen. It just seems harder to do now. Like Old Town Road and Party Girl, those kind of TikTok successes might already be in the past. A lot of like anonymous label people have already shared that idea. And I think it is pretty cool that some guy who openly acknowledges that he's a work in progress as an artist was able to find so much success. And I think he's at like 200 million Spotify streams for Party Girl, and he's looking at like 20 million monthly listeners on Spotify these days, basically off of that one track. He's got like 10 official songs out, if that, so I give him credit for that. But I think to what you're alluding to, what you're openly saying is that I don't think StaySolidRocky does much new, nor anything like that well that you would immediately think of him for doing, right? Like, if we think of like his lyrical subject matter when it comes to sad boy shit involving girls, it's like the Venn diagram of him and Juice WRLD is just a circle, right? So I think in a sense his appeal is like Juice fans probably do like some of these songs, maybe just not as much, like it's that same kind of emo melodic hip hop boy shit,
Yeah,
I do like Vacant Heart though on this. I actually think he sounds good on that. I think that's a really catchy hook. And then the feature from big four keysy. I actually think he comes in really hard on that and fits the flow really well. So I actually genuinely like Fake and Hard. But and Uzi was I think pretty fun on the remix of Party Girl. But yeah, it's really nothing you haven't heard before.
Yeah, if he was doing like a better Juice World impression, I think I would be a little bit more tuned into this. But I really just felt like most of his delivery, his raps were just really monotone, nothing really super engaging. And when he sang, I just was like, bro, please don't sing. Like, this is, you don't seem to have any vocal training or range. It just really didn't impress at all. It's funny to bring up the Juice World thing because reviewing the posthumous album last week, I feel like Juice World, at least you could kind of see the appeal and like you could see like the technical ability. I mean, yeah, he wrote a catchy song. Party Girl obviously catches the youth, and I'm sure there will be some TikTokers who will watch or listen to this and be like, this old millennial just doesn't get it. Like, go listen to your Kanye West, bro. Like, come at me. But really, I don't find much redeeming about this. Good for him though, on blowing up the way he has, and maybe the next album will be better. But just
right,
not impressed.
Interestingly, he's now managed by Solomon Sobode, who was the former manager of XXXTentacion, and Solomon actually reached out to Rocky when this Party Girl blow up was happening and was able to bring him to Columbia Records. So I guess Solomon earns his success once again by kind of seeing this before most people were and finding a genuine hit as it was happening. So good for him, good for Columbia, I guess. Also on Party Girl, Rocky has that line. She drink the Four Locos. I can't fuck with those though, or whatever it goes. Bro, what the fuck we doing here, man? You're just fucking not cool if you're not fucking with no Four Locos, man. That's an economical way to get drunk. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Favorite Four Loko flavor, Dave, from the OG Four Locos?
Oh, that's a tough one. I
go watermelon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think if there's any one I really disliked, it was the yellow one. I think it was more about weighing your options of which ones you disliked the least, more than liked.
Yeah. Well, it tastes like turpentine.
Yeah, it's like pain tolerance,
Exactly. Speaking of pain tolerance, let's move on to Kyle dropping another album. See You When I'm Famous with like 10 exclamation points. Boy, we reviewed Kyle's Light of Mine back in 2018.
Correct.
I think if I remember the review, I think we felt like it wasn't enough like variation in the album. It was kind of meh. Some potential songs that sounded interesting, but nothing that really blew us away. And we
Playing With Me, Kalani, definitely the big lasting song from that one to me, of course, apart from I Spy. But yeah, kind of he's almost sanitizing his sound down a bit after being a little more quirky on his early internet mixtapes and stuff. So, and I mean, since then, 2 years later, Kyle's still quite mainstream, right? Kind of doing diet chant stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think we get a lot more of that on See You When I Am Famous. Did you feel like this was a step forward for him as an artist?
No, I wouldn't say it's a step forward. I don't know if I necessarily say it's a step back either, but it's definitely not really much growth here. And it's interesting when I hear a song like, say, Yes on this new album featuring Rich the Kid and K Camp. I actually like that song a lot. Me too. I actually think that's one of my favorite Rich the Kid features in a long time. And K Camp, he fits it well too. And obviously coming off Renegade or Lottery, which made the Renegade dance, he's a choice feature, I think, in terms of economics. But Yes is funny to me because they all kind of like have a surprising amount of chemistry for a song that was unlikely to have actually been recorded in person. I was like, wow, this is cool. But Kyle isn't actually, there's not a whole lot of like that Kyle personality on that song, but I still like the song, So I've been trying to think about this album, and I actually wonder if I like him when he's more mainstream and I guess less noteworthy. I don't know. It's because like moments like that, like moments on Yes, I'm like, I actually think this is really fun. This is really catchy, but Kyle's not doing anything that great on that song at all.
Yeah.
I think if there is a moment that might lead itself to new sounds and growth for Kyle, I think it's What It Is, which was one of the leading singles. That's that's kind of more sad boy shit that, StaySolidRocky would probably fuck with, but I actually think that one goes. And, whether it's mixed really well or not, he has a decent voice when he's crooning a little bit. I didn't think it sounded that bad. So, stuff like that stands out to me. But otherwise, yeah, I guess you'd say it's a bit of a letdown. Like Girls with Rico Nasty, I wish that was better.
Right, like when I
Bryson
saw
Tiller,
Rico,
I never see Bryson Tiller anymore, and again, not that great, So yeah, but the Rico and Kyle, you feel like that could be a match made in heaven, and it didn't happen this time.
I mean, anything Rico Nasty drops on, it's usually fire. But even this just felt like she couldn't save this song. And yeah, looking through, he's got some pretty big features, but none of them, other than probably Rich the Kid and K Camp on Yes, like you said, really I felt like stood out. I did think Mr. Man and Kid, KID, was an interesting song, and I think you can kind of like that Diet Chance, comparison you made at the beginning, you really hear that in that. And man, I feel like when you think about Kyle and why he initially kind of got that interest, because he was like a introspective but kind of like playful, more upbeat artist in that sense. But hearing you say like you almost like the more mainstream stuff, it's like, which is the Kyle we want? The one that's going to make the bangers and like the songs that we can really enjoy, or the one that might do this more reflective stuff, but probably is going to have a lot more hits and misses? It's a tough lane to be in, kind of in between.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mr. Man and KID, that is very similar to his earliest work. Yeah. That kind of quirk, that self-awareness, that split personality stuff. That's very similar to his old stuff. I think that song is going to be a big hit for his longtime fans. But yeah, I mean, I think what I want from Kyle is stuff like Hey Julie with Yachty. It's just kind of that light, airy, nothing too deep about it song. Yeah. And unfortunately, on See You When I'm Famous, most of the moments do have that kind of sentiment, but they just don't actually all hit that well. So it's he was piping this up as his best album he ever made in his opinion, and it's like I just find it curious to have him think that, because he doesn't seem like he's committing to either direction. Like you have Mr. Man and KID on the same album as Yes, so which one is it? And What It Is on there too. I guess those three songs in particular kind of stand out to me because of how different they are from each other, and maybe Kyle doesn't actually want to commit to any of those lanes and kind of just do his own thing because he's already successful enough. It doesn't really matter. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I feel like Kyle still has a ton of potential, and probably his best work is ahead of him, but definitely was let down by the last two projects. Hoping we get some better stuff moving forward. Speaking of better stuff moving forward, though, Ellie Goulding, however you want to say it, she is 63rd in the world on Spotify right now. Pretty surprising. I did not expect her to be that high.
Not a big artist in the U.S. for sure. So yeah, I was also surprised as well.
She has that Brit pop backing, and it's interesting because when I think of Ellie Goulding, I have a very distinct memory of being at Firefly in 2013 and walking by and seeing her on stage, and I think I heard Burn, and I was like, all right, I can go. I heard like the one song I really know and like by her, and like I headed out, just kind of walked by, going to a different stage. And that's kind of always how I like imagined her, like she was one of those artists that would like pop up on a Zed song or on like a Diplo song, and like her vocals are very distinct. She has like that rasp that really I think sets her apart. But where she falls in like the female pop vocalist realm, I mean, I can't. It's hard to even rank her. Like, where do you think she falls?
Yeah, that was also framing my thoughts as well, because I think for me the song I would go to would be Lights from the first album. That is still a banger today. But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of like pop. You think of pop from England, and you have like the mega stars, right? Like Ed Sheeran and Adele, and I guess Dua's vastly approaching those levels too. And then after that, it seems like it's a lot of like new heads, right? It's like Georgia Smith, it's LMI, it's Louis Capaldi, it's Harry Styles and the 1D dudes, you know? Um, so like, where do we think of Ellie Goulding? Because she's only like, I don't know, 5, 6 years older than Charlie XCX, but she just feels like she's from a way different generation, you know? Like, I don't know. Do we put her in the Florence Welch generation of English singers? I don't know. She's hard to classify because she's, you know, kind of like, I guess, Rita Ora to an even bigger extent. She's someone that really has not made any sustained musical footprint in the US, despite being very successful.
Yeah.
Across the
But
pond.
you know, like you have to think her biggest songs are big songs. Like you just mentioned Lights. I Need Your Love with Calvin Harris was a huge hit. Burn, like I said, was pretty enormous. Then she's on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. I mean, I feel like there are some real hits here. I think that's why it's so hard to like really place her, because she has these songs that pop up and you're just like, oh, like Ellie Goulding is fucking awesome, dude. Like this girl can sing. She's so distinct sounding. But then you like try to name like her top 10 songs and you're like, wait, I can't even think of 7 of them. You know, it's tough. So really, really difficult to place. And never really like listening to her as like an artist in that way, just like going through albums. No, she was always a singles person for me. So listening to Brightest Blue, I found to be a really interesting experience, and kind of going back and listening to some of these other albums, it feels like Brightest Blue is probably the most cohesive sounding album that Ellie's had. Like it feels like from start to finish there was at least like a vision, and some really strong vocal performances. Also definitely trying out some new things. Like she's not just going for like the straight vocals here, but she's kind of switching up sounds, distorting a little bit. I thought it was pretty good. I'm gonna say that. I'll let you kind of talk your piece, and we'll maybe pick apart some of these songs.
Yeah, I agree. With it? I also like haven't listened to Delirium or Halcyon or the first album Lights. So like I don't really have a big frame of reference beyond the big hits that have popped, as you shared as well. So coming into this, I really actually didn't know what to expect, because I'm like, I don't even have any idea what a Ellie deep cut is, you know.
Right.
And it's actually kind of weird, Brightest Blue, because at the back of this album, you know, it's 19 tracks. And at the back of this, you have a string of 4 tracks with features, some of them quite big: Juice WRLD, Sway Lee, Black Bear. And I was like, wow, that reminds me kind of like the mainstream famous Ellie Goulding, right? And those songs, for the most part, are very different from what, you know, I think the lyrical content from the rest of this album, when I think of a song like, say, Woman in the middle of the track list, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, these cuts, they're, for the most part, she's trying to actually like look inward and be quite introspective, and about, you know, she hasn't released an album in 5 years. That's a long time in pop music. And, you know, I think she's talked about some anxieties she's had in the studios and stuff, and in general, has a lot of experience in the industry, and trying to hear that come out here and there on this album, I did enjoy. But yeah, I'm curious what like hardcore Ellie Goulding fans think of this, because from what I understand, sonically, she has jumped around a bit in terms of the kind of music she's made. She almost was making more like stripped down tracks on the last album, I think. And, you know, she used to make much more electronic leaning songs. Now I think she's kind of settling into like a lighter synth pop, I guess. But as you said, there are some experimentations here. I think of like that interlude track Wine Drunk, which is just heavy auto-tune inflection, you know? So interesting for sure.
You know, when it first started off with Start, aptly titled song, I really felt like I was listening to Ellie Goulding doing a Weekend impression.
Ooh.
You know, like it really like the cadence and delivery, the flow, if you will, from Ellie, which I don't know if I've ever thought of Ellie Goulding's flow before. Really seemed like she was kind of stealing from like a song from Bright Lights or something like that a little bit. And I think I like seeing her try these things, because there's only so many times she can make a song like Close to Me, which I think is the obvious like pop song off this, like radio play song off this album to me, and really continue to grow as an artist. Like if she's really gonna just kind of back into that, I'm gonna do vocal features on EDM artist albums for the next 10 years, and that's gonna be her lane. Like good for her, but she's definitely got more talent, and I think that shows in some of the songwriting on this. It comes, I think, across really well. You mentioned woman. I think Ode to Self is a pretty like woman empowerment, like deep look at herself, which I thought was pretty good. I even thought Power and How Deep Is Too Deep were pretty strong songs as well. So, you know, there's a lot here to like, and I think Ellie Goulding is an artist. Maybe she's finding like what works for her, but like you said, she does seem to be kind of you know, placing her bets or hedging her bets a bit with also doing this second part of the double album with these really big artists. Did you like any of the features on there? Any that stood out?
You know, when I heard the song "Hate Me" with Juice last year, it didn't really stick with me. But listening to it again for this, I actually liked it. I thought it was actually a good mix.
Yeah,
and you know, I think Ellie is like you mentioned, she has that song with Calvin Harris, and she has like, maybe she's almost underrated in her ability to like collaborate. I think, because she's dabbled with really a lot of sounds in the past 10 years or so. She actually can lend herself to a lot of other people. So
for sure,
it's a cool collab.
Yeah, I thought Slow Grenade, while the lyrical content was kind of stupid, how do you say it? Lauv?
Yeah.
Lauv? Sounded just like Shawn Mendes to me on this, and I thought they actually meshed together pretty well in terms of vocals. So now I just want to hear a Shawn Mendes and Ellie song. Maybe they'll work together. Who knows?
That's a good one.
Any last thoughts on this or on Ellie in general?
Shout out Ellie Goulding, man.
Yeah, I like her.
Happy to talk about her again. First time on the pod. Again, it's been a long wait. So.
Yeah, 5 years. It's the last album. So.
Curious to see how this does here in the States.
Well, and talk about a long wait, Dixie Chicks, or should I say the Chicks? Why don't we start there, actually? What do you think about all this, like, name renaming, Lady Antebellum becoming Lady A, the Dixie Chicks becoming the Chicks? How do you feel about these name changes?
Yeah, you know, these are interesting to me because they're just references to past Southern history that obviously greatly negatively impacted the lives of the Black people in the South at the time, of course. But there's also, you know, like, it kind of reminds, it's like the other thing with Gone with the Wind right now, right? It's like this whole like romanticization of that period of time in the South, right? And see, I don't know, like the word antebellum, does that really need to immediately be thought of negatively? Dixie, I don't know. I thought they're kind of middling in terms of the offensive category. Like, I can get it, like, fine, don't bother, that's fine. I think honestly, Lady Antebellum's name change, Lady A, when there's already a long established artist named Lady A who happens to be Black, and then they're actually like suing that person over this. It sounds like you're being very performative and don't actually give a shit at all. And that the Chicks, I mean, whatever. They've been the Dixie Chicks forever, so now they're just the artists formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. You know, like, I don't think anyone's gonna really call them the Chicks. But I mean, who cares? They've been around forever. It doesn't really matter.
It's funny. Like, I think you said it perfectly, and I totally agree on Lady Antebellum. The way that they're going about their name change is absolutely ridiculous. If it really means that much that you don't want to be Lady Antebellum, but you also really want to be Lady A, like, take a look at what you're actually doing here. The Dixie Chicks, however, have been kind of cast out of country music in a sense since 2006 after their critique of George Bush invading Iraq. Actually, that was 2003, and then they really got a lot of backlash from that. They made I forgot the name of the album. I had it just down here a second ago. Back in 2006, which they won a couple of Grammys for.
Taking the Long Way.
Yes, Taking the Long Way. Obviously, the song Don't Want to Back Down, or Not Ready to Back Down. It was the big hit from that. I remember seeing that on a lot of award shows at the time. And that was kind of like their rock album in a sense, and kind of solidified their move away from country. So for them to drop this piece of their name that kind of is associated with country music in some sense, and whether that makes sense or not either, that Dixie and country music go together, who knows. I think their name change makes a lot of sense because they've been kind of moving away. And this album, Gaslighter, the first one in 14 years for this band, really seems like the perfect time to change the name, because this album is just their pop album, right? I mean, they're teaming up with Jack Antonoff, our
Guess
guy.
who?
Yeah, who, I mean, has been just like hitting dingers every time he's out there. We talked about him collaborating with Taylor Swift, Lorde, Lana Del Rey. You know, like he really, he's really just been putting out hit after hit. I feel like he missteps here a little bit, but I feel like maybe that's because this album is so much just a divorce album. You know, like this is Natalie Maine just putting her heart out on the record completely raw. And I think some of these songs feel really exciting and fun and or heartfelt, and some of them feel, I think, a little childish, and then some of them feel a little cookie cutter. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like they kind of all fall into like either like really fun like pop country song, or like soft ballad, or like stripped down acoustic like thoughtful song, but like there's not really much in between from there. How are you feeling about Gaslighter as the Dixie Chicks return?
Yeah, it is funny to see and hear them collaborate with Jack, because it's like, did you guys really need this? Like, you already have enough juice coming into this as the comeback album, the first album in 14 years. There's so much baggage they are bringing to this album and this cycle that I don't know if they need any like creative help. I think it's fine. It'll take care of itself in that regard. But partially because it's a work of Jack, this is just compulsively listenable the entire time. It's so inoffensive, right? So it's like, you don't have to be a country fan because it's like the lightest possible country flair, right? Which is funny because that is also quite similar to a lot of successful country these days, which is much more country pop than anything else, right? I think of like someone who has cited the Chicks as a huge influence, Maren Morris, right? And Maren Morris is also someone who has followed their lead in being outspoken about what she believes in after country music as an industry for the longest time was very closed off in what they would tolerate, especially from women. So, you know, in that sense, I think it's quite a success, but it also by design is not nearly as ambitious as some of their past work. And again, I think that's fine because it's a comeback album. It's more like a reset more than anything else. So
yeah, I totally agree, and it's interesting too because part of what caused this layoff, you know, Maine moved to LA to be with Adrian Pasdar from Heroes. That's who this album is about. He actually tried to get this album to stop the release because he felt like it might have infringed upon a prenuptial agreement. And he didn't want some of the details coming out that are shared in here. But they also were feuding with Sony, which it was their production company, and had caused a lot of issues for them. And the original thought was they're going to come back, do just like a cover album and get out of the deal because they only had one more album left. And then Maine got divorced and she had a lot more to say and started writing more. I find it really interesting because they brought in some heavy hitting songwriters to help them with this. You have Julia Michaels on, I think, 3 or 4 songs here. You have Teddy Geiger showing up for a song. Antonoff's all over this. You even have St. Vincent, Annie Clark, coming on to help with Young Man near the end. I mean, there's some heavy hitters, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you can really feel Michael's influence on the songs that she's on. I feel like she really played a big part in shaping a song like, let me just find my notes here. Further down than I expected.
I mean, having Julia Michaels and Jack Antonoff help you on the same record is in itself a big flex because they're two of the like whisperers in the mainstream music business that continue to get tons of work because of how talented writers and producers they are.
Yeah, and like I was saying, Texas Man, Tights on My Boat, like some of those songs will hit you to varying degrees, but they're catchy as hell. And like, then you put in like the pop, like drum sound and that like little twanging banjo. And it just feels infectious, a lot of it. And I thought this was a great listen, a bit inconsistent at times. And I felt like they're getting their footing back, but just a really, in general, a fun listen. What was your reference to the Chicks going into this? Like, were you familiar with any of their past work?
Really had not listened to their music much at all. I just knew the story and the blow up and all that followed. Really, I'm curious how longtime fans feel about this album. In a sense, it's probably not a new feeling for most people to have a band or group artists that you like and have liked for a long time. Inevitably, they will sound different. It's just the way it goes when you make music for a long enough time. But maybe there are people that were hotly anticipating this for 14 years, then this is not quite as country as they wanted, or doesn't quite hit actually as hard as they wanted. I don't know.
It's funny. I've been somewhat aware of like the Dixie Chicks and probably like their biggest songs, and I went back and I gave a couple of the deeper cuts some listens, and it's interesting because I think the song that people probably know them most for is their cover of Landslide, which I mean, that's a 50-year-old song now. It's not anything new. And then you think about the songs of theirs that really do stand out, things like Not Ready to Make Nice or Wide Open Spaces or was it Goodbye Earl, Cowboy Take Me Away. Like these songs are songs that if you listen to the Chicks, you probably know, but they're not songs that have ever really grabbed the zeitgeist. So to like see them have this comeback and to really, I feel like, get a lot of recognition and acclaim. I saw quite a few people talking about them on Twitter on Friday and over the weekend. I find it interesting because I feel like they hold a very interesting space in popular culture, because they have moved away from that original sound. They've really evolved. They're really into like a third act of their career almost, in a sense. It's very, very interesting to see. Anything on here that you really wanted to shout out or that you really liked?
I think my favorite song was Tights on My Boat. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. And you can kind of hear Maine kind of like smirking at that. Did you like the title track?
Oh, that was my other one. Yeah, I like Gaslighter a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, just about all of it's very easy to listen to.
Yeah, I think Gaslighter's the real banger off this, and we added that to the playlist already. I also think a song like or at least the end of March feels very much more like old school Dixie Chicks. I thought Texas Man was pretty good, and Sleep at Night was also really good. I guess I like the beginning of the album now that I'm looking through the track list. Dixie Chicks, man. Check out their song Gaslighter on our Nowstalgia Best of 2020 playlist. Might put another song from them on there, as well as songs from Kyle and Ellie and not StaySolidRocky. But Dave, it's time to move on and talk about a movie that kind of only came onto our radar very recently. Shout out the Big Picture podcast saying that this was one of their favorite movies of the year so far. The Vast of Night. Dave, watching this on Amazon at home, how did you feel watching the Vast of Night? What was your experience like?
Yeah, so definitely a movie I wish I saw in the theater. Yeah, because of how good it is. But yeah, this came out on Amazon on May 29th of this year. So it's been out a while. We are knowingly coming at this late. And it's funny because this is a movie that premiered at a Slam Dance back in 2019. So January 2019. And that was after Andrew Patterson, the director. This is his first film. This is after Patterson was rejected from numerous film festivals for like all of 2018 after making this mainly at the end of 2016 and, editing it through 2017. So it's had quite the journey just to get to the screen. And, Patterson, he's 38. This is his first film. And he's already kind of a successful like videographer based out in OKC. So cool story. And yeah, I found what I liked about it from the jump was that it just throws you in the story, the narrative. You just kind of latch on with these two characters, Everett and Faye. And you pick up on stuff as you go. It has a really fast-paced dialogue, especially in the early going. But there's a series of monologues in the film that are just completely engrossing and hold your attention, from Billy and then from the older woman in her home later on. So, you know, it has some obvious comparison points to stuff like, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It kind of has a Spielbergian sensibility to the filmmaking. It kind of goes without saying. But it also has some, you know, homage of sorts to like Twilight Zone and X-Files, stuff like that. But, you know, I thought it was a really thrilling movie. You know, 90 minutes, doesn't really waste any time at all. It's really methodical, and it was made for like $700K, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So I loved it. I really wish I could have seen it in the theater, because you can tell this would be a great experience.
Totally. It really does grip you right from the beginning, and you're really sucked in. And thinking about Patterson's background as a videographer, you can kind of see how he uses the close-ups, how he uses panning away, or even like turning the screen off to really draw your attention to certain aspects of the story. You know, it's kind of framed as like there's you know, the sounds going on across this small town, 1950s small town, and they don't know what the sounds are, or what these noises or things are, and they start to investigate Faye and Everett. And Faye is a telephone operator and patching people through to Everett, and that first phone call they get from the old army person who would, you know, had the story about like seeing this alien spaceship or believing it was an alien spaceship, and you know, he was picked because he was black and no one was going to listen to them back then. And but the way it like pans into Everett's face, and you never see the guy on the other end of the phone line, and then it actually cuts to black, and you're just like sitting and listening to this story just like you would if you were just sitting and listening to the radio, I thought was a really awesome choice, and something that really like made me focus on just what was being said in the story, and like maybe almost like use my imagination to depict part of this, which I thought was an interesting technique. I also thought the way that they like light and frame when they go to that old lady's house to hear her story and her experience with her child being abducted was like a really like eerie, dark sense. They used like dim lighting over her face, so she looked very like creepy, but also kind of like she was just this like nice old woman in a sense, you know. So I thought it was really, really effective, and it stuck with me. I watched this a couple weeks back, and man, I have nothing but really good things to say about this. How did you feel like the you know, Sierra McCormick as Faye and Jake Horowitz as Everett did performance-wise?
I liked them a lot. You know, they have to deliver quite a lot of dialogue. They have to deliver most of the dialogue in the film. And to actors I was not familiar with, I believe Jake Horowitz, this is maybe one of his first roles, as far as I could tell. He doesn't have a Wikipedia yet. And Sierra McCormick's a little more experienced. But I liked them a lot. And, you know, I thought Sierra in particular, her performance as Faye kind of stood out to me, because you could really tell just how lived in this town was, this world was, you know. Again, on a sparse budget, but like those locations, they just feel so real. And Faye feels like a real person, you know, like you tell like how like genuine she is about like, oh, Everett, you can't do that. That's lying, you know. It's like,
yeah.
And, you know, just in their relationship in general, you know, as Everett as like a talented, aspiring radio DJ personality, and Faye as a switchboard operator, you know, kind of both in one sense highlighting the gender roles of the time, but also kind of lending to the I think it kind of lends itself so well to the story, because, you know, there are no phones to try and capture photos of these aliens, right? Faye has to go get that camera from whoever's house, and like just in case, right? And earlier on, Billy's like, yeah, it was all these Mexican black soldiers, because they know no one will listen to us and believe us what we say anyway, right? But honestly, I think the second monologue from the old woman really sat with me, because in a sense, you also, I mean, on one hand, like, you know, you're kind of on the edge of your seat because you're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the story. But there's also kind of like a sense of like dread and sadness, because you understand that this woman's life was effectively ruined by these aliens taking her fucking kid, and then thus everyone changing their opinion on her after they already were judging her due to the custom of the time and having an out of wedlock kid. I was like, wow, it's kind of a lot there to sit there and chew on. And then whenever it wasn't believing her and like wouldn't take the words that the aliens speak, right? And like you could just tell like he was like breaking her heart. She felt like this was like her last chance. And it's I think it's a really impressive movie.
Yeah, and for it to be framed as this like kind of like mystery sci-fi alien movie and to be hitting on such heavy themes and really having you sit with those themes, like you talked about the racial inequality and injustices within the military, the stigma of having a child out of wedlock, and really, she was taken advantage of by this person who she had this child with. She didn't even know how to read. She like dropped out of school. There were so many instances that like led to her being stigmatized for her plight in life, but a lot of those things being out of her control, and like having you really sit with how our culture and our society comes to develop those things, and then kind of framing that around this like ghost story, I thought, or this alien story, was very interesting. How did you feel about like the last third of the movie when they kind of like go into the field and the ship arrives and things like that? Did you feel like that hit for you the way you expected or hoped?
Yeah, for sure. It's also, it's one of those movies when you know going in that it's modestly made, you're like, is this something where you don't actually see what's haunting you, what aliens are here, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Then you actually see that ship in the distance and you're like, imagine being those fucking kids right there, seeing that, right? After everything they had been through that night. And later, which I don't know, you see that it's just this one little like scout vessel as part of a larger mothership or whatever, it's a sci-fi movie. It doesn't like OD on its sci-fi-ness, but it's like just enough, right? So again, that's why I like the Spielbergian nature of it all obviously really stands out. Andrew Patterson has befriended Steven Soderbergh thanks to this movie. I think Soderbergh saw this at Slam Dance because he was promoting High Flying Bird at the time. And Soderbergh has espoused a lot of praise for Patterson in terms of what he was able to accomplish in this movie. Again, knowing everything it took to make this. And, Soderbergh, of course, the one who ushered in the modern indie film. I'm sure that's a wild thing to hear. And
sure,
I think Patterson and Soderbergh, they just like an interview you can talk. They talking to each other in the LA Times. Pretty interesting to hear that. And Patterson, he financed this whole movie by himself. So he said he owns the movie. That's pretty cool. Apparently, he already shot this movie. It's a revenge thriller around the honey bee industry.
Oh,
so shit. Yeah, I don't know. And he also other stuff in the kitchen. So who knows when that other movie comes out? But definitely a really intriguing debut. And he's someone who, again, he's a little older than your average new filmmaker. And he's based in OKC, not on the coast, and he doesn't have any social media. So it seems like he's grounded and he wants to do what he stick to what he wants to do, which is nice because, again, we've seen nascent filmmakers very quickly be snatched up by franchises and kind of artistically held back as soon as they debut. We've gone over that before. So hopefully he sticks to his guns because he doesn't seem like he really needs a whole lot of help, But imagine what this guy could do with like $10 million or $20 million.
Yeah. It's funny, as you were saying that, I was trying to think of like the directors that have kind of stayed away from that, like that payday, that franchise movie thing. And I mean, Barry Jenkins, I think, is the one that comes to mind, as he always kind of does what he wants to do. Chazelle. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think if there's any female directors that really stand out in that sense.
Greta.
Yes, Greta for sure.
Jordan Peele. Yeah. Although he did Twilight Zone.
Yeah, Jordan Peele got that bag, and he's like an EP on so many things at this point.
Yeah,
Candyman. He probably just like looked at it once, and they're like, slap Jordan Peele in there,
But Andrew Patterson, he does seem pretty thoughtful though, so I don't think he's the next Trank. That's nice.
I'm with
Chronicle. It's an easy comp. Chronicle, another really
true,
eye-catching. That was more superhero, but science fiction angled movie made for modest money. So. Yeah, very exciting. Definitely want to recommend that to everyone because, apparently it played some drive-ins too back in
That's
May. That would have been
cool.
sick because that's like a classic feel. It's a classic feeling movie.
Mm-hmm.
And back at a time when that's how most people watched movies was at a drive-in, So
Yep.
that was probably a really cool experience.
Yeah, man. Give me the beekeeping movie now. I need it. That sounds super interesting.
Honeyland 2, Revenge of the Bees.
All right. So that does it for us this week. 5 albums and a movie. What more could you want? And what can the people be expecting for next week, Dave?
So we don't have a lot. We've been saying this more often than not now. We have Logic's purported retirement album. So there's a lot riding on this final album before Logic leaves the rap game to be more not public facing. We'll talk about that next week. Definitely interesting. Also, with the arrival of Peacock, we have Brave New World, the sci-fi banner original show for Peacock starring Alden Ehrenreich and others. So we have those things, and we'll see what else happens.
There will be something. Maybe we'll hit some albums we've missed. Who knows? But stay tuned. Hit that subscribe. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, and also follow us on Twitter @nostalgiapod. Stay safe. Wear a mask. See you next week.